Good morning to you and welcome back to Morning Live. Now, due to financial constraints, SA Rugby has opted not to subsidise the Under-13 Rugby Week, where the country's provincial teams play against each other and the best talent in the country is identified. This has left the South African Rugby Schools body and mother unions to raise the funds required to compete in this prestigious tournament. Unfortunately, funds are a scarce commodity at the moment for both the bodies, and the burden of payment has now fallen on the parents. Now, to help us talk about this matter, we have roped in Andre Matthee, who is the treasurer for Border Schools, as well as a friend of the show, Sibusisio Mjikeliso of News 24. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us on Sports on Morning Live.
Good morning.
Good morning, Lee.
Okay, so Sibusisio, I will start with you. Now, playing for your province as a young rugby player is a source of pride, and it's also a good barometer of how talented a player is, because you get the opportunity to compete against the best in the country. But the current situation we find ourselves in means that you may not necessarily be playing for a team, even if you are the best in a province, and it literally just comes down to having a constraint in terms of financial capabilities for parents or certain limitations. Now, two things stand out for me here. It appears to be counterproductive to the development of rugby in South Africa, and is also unfair on a number of various fronts.
Yeah, you're absolutely right on all fronts there, Fusiwe, and thanks for having me on your show. I think what it is unfortunate about is that we produce probably the best talent pipeline in the world when it comes to rugby, and tournaments such as these, such as Under-13, identifying talent from that age, under 16 Grand Coma Week, Craven Week, and then the Elsen Weeks, Girls Weeks that have been added as well. These are the reasons why South African rugby is so strong and continues to produce so much talent, despite how much talent, world-class talent, we lose to overseas teams. So now when you get to a scenario where kids aren't able to go to such tournaments and be identified by bigger schools, get other opportunities to go to school, even if they don't take up rugby, they go to better schools. You can ask a lot of the players. Siya Kolisi, he was identified, fortunately, from Esrida, but he got an opportunity to go to Grey, where now a grandstand, a field, the main field at Grey, is named after him. So it's at this age, around about Under-13, where the best kids are put together in one pool and they can be scouted, given opportunities to study, so that even if they don't take up rugby, at least they are given an opportunity to go to a good school, they can get a good education, and then they can further their lives and careers. But I just want to add a little bit of context. Just in the recent past, I'll say last 10 years or so, there's always been some sort of contribution that the parents have had to make. It would either be, like a small amount, cover meals or cover transport, but because of the climate that we're in at the moment, the burden, it seems like a lot. South Africa seems to be in a huge financial burden, and now it's been increased. Now it's fallen completely on the parents. It's very unfortunate, because parents whose kids are very talented are going to say to mommy or daddy, I want to go, but there's no money to send them. So is it fair? I don't think so, because who's going to get selected at the end of the day? The parent whose child can afford to send them to the Under-13 week.
And that's why we're basically saying it's counterproductive. Andre, let's bring you into the discussion. Now, your province has asked parents to contribute an amount of 7,000 Rand for a pre-tournament that's going to take place in Oturan, and then about another 8,000 Rand for the Under-13 youth tournament in Krugersdorp. This amounts to roughly 15,000 Rand. It's a lot of money for some parents who can barely afford to pay for their children to go to school.
Hi, Lee. Thank you very much for the question, and thank you very much for hosting this program this morning to give a bit of clarity to all the parents and the whole community. So our pre-Craven week is valued at 2,000 Rand. I don't know exactly where you got your figures from. And then for the Craven week itself, we're looking to amount between 7,000 and 10,000 Rand, and including our pre-Craven week tournament, our training camps, and then also the Craven week itself, looking at about an amount of 12,000 Rand estimation. But to come back, we've got a motto at Border that we don't leave any players behind because of money. Initially, we were told to withdraw from this tournament because it's not funded by SARU. we then got permission from the administrator of Border Rugby, because we were under the administration, that we could apply to be part of this tournament, but we had to give the opportunity to the parents if they are willing to build the fund and go look for sponsorships. As the executive has also done the same thing. Since we had this tragic news that under-13s are not part of the programs of SARU, we really went the extra mile. We've approached the mayor of Border BCM, we've approached the Department of Education, and also we've approached Arts and Culture, and that's already confirmed. We have received the amount of 250,000 Rand from Sports, Arts and Culture, divided up in 7 teams, so we're looking at about 37,000 Rand per team there. And so things are really happening here in the border. And the parents have been amazing. They've gone to look for sponsors. We've got our raffle list to give every child the opportunity. And I want to add, I'm very proud to say that we are the mega of development of rugby in the border. There's no dispute of that. And we chose a team of 23 players, of 17 of color, and selected on merit. And that's why we are going the extra mile for each child here in the border area. And we've got some awesome development programs run by Dale, Queens, Selborne, and all the other schools where they really go look for talent and try and rope them into the system.
Okay, so just quickly, Andre, in total, how much is the contribution that you're asking parents to make at this present moment?
At the present moment, taking into consideration the funds we've already generated, between 9 and 12,000.
9 and 12,000. Okay, Sbu, let me bring you back into the conversation. When we look at this and how parents are being asked to make a contribution, when we're being honest with ourselves, which players are likely to be affected by this?
It's very clear that it's more likely to be black players that are disenfranchised the most out of this. And I'll use Border as an example because, as Andre said, the majority of the team that they've selected are majority black, and they've selected on merit. This is the critical point, is that you want these kids to have at least the opportunity. It's not a matter of feeling sorry or doing favors for any black players. You want them to just have the opportunity so that they can be out there and they can at least have a shot. I remember I used to play not at 13 provincial, but at Graham once upon a time, and I remember we had some very, very talented kids there that I used to play with, guys like Sivu and Yobole. And stuff. So these were very good players. They managed to get their opportunities to play at the Queens Under-13 tournament. The parents needed that support, but we're living in a very tough time right now, and I'm really, really hopeful that I'm glad the Department of Sport in the Eastern Cape, which has been very, very good with these programs and keeping Border afloat at times, has come into support, and I hope that the parents can find ways, and I hope the Eastern Cape can also come together. As you know, I'm very invested in telling the stories of people from the Eastern Cape in rugby, and I really sincerely hope that we don't stop this pipeline, because at the end of the day, it contributes to the broader pipeline of South African rugby.
Gentlemen, unfortunately, we have run out of time, but thank you so much for your time here this morning. Do have a blessed day further.
Thank you very much, Lee. Appreciate it. Keep up with the good work.
Gee, thanks, Andre. All right, well, that does wrap out our sports bulletin in this hour. We are, of course, speaking to Andre Matthee, who is the treasurer for Border Schools, as well as Sibusisio Mjikeliso of News 24. We do hope, though, in future that we'll see some more proactiveness from Border Schools in terms of raising funds for participation in competitions. But here's Leanne now with your morning headlines.